September 28th, 2023. You will stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approve the agenda. Mr. Russellton, your recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board to approve the agenda.
Do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. New business, the 2022 and 2023 accountability results, Mr. Kirkendall.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you guys again at this time. So we do now have final accountability results for the 22-23 school year that we can share with you as of 11 o'clock this morning. So hot off the press. We'll begin with the district mission and vision. Everything that we do ties to this. Obviously, goal one is very crucial here as we're focusing on student learning. We thought this slide to start off with might help you out. This basically gives you the overview of what goes into the accountability model. So these ratings that you're about to see and the data that you're about to see, where does it actually come from? So it's student performance in math and ELA. Our students meeting the expected growth for math and ELA, and lowest performing students, they mean their growth. And then grade 5 and 8 science and biology 1, U.S. history, high school level, and then how are English learners making progress towards proficiency in language. And then it's on ACT work keys assessment, and then students' participation and performance in advanced placement and dual credit, and then whether students are graduating on that will go into what you were about to see. That's how we're rated. One thing before we actually get into the accountability results, we have a literacy-based promotion act in Mississippi. In this component 1, we test all kindergarten students when they first come to school with us to access kind of where they are, how they're coming to us, so teachers can have ready data to start instruction. So just it doesn't factor in accountability, so that's just the point of note. And it really happens before any instruction at all. It's just reflective of how the student starts school. The score that you're looking for, if you want to remember on the next slide, is 530. 530 is the score where the testing vendor and the MD says that a student is ready for kindergarten. These are the average scale score for our district for the last, since the beginning of this test, honestly, since fall 2015. So you will see that there is a trend. And so what I like to show this slide here because we see kind of where students start, and then I'll show you where they end. So what it shows you is our teachers are doing amazing work. Long story short, as you will see throughout this presentation. So here are the final results for the district accountability, and I am pleased to tell you that we are an 8 again. Those are the components that we just went through for the accountability model. Those are the data points on a 100-point scale, all except the EO component. That one's on a 50-point component that you see there. The rest 50-point scale, but the rest of them, as you see there, are on a 100-point scale. And so very pleased with the work that the district, the team behind me, and then all the schools have done to make that happen and make us an A school district again. So here you will see ELA assessment proficiency. So this is just our, what we call our raw data proficiency. It's just straight from the test file over the last several years. So that you can see trends, you will see a lot of it has gone up. I'm very proud of that across the grade spans. This is the same exact information for math. across the grade span to show your raw efficiency. You see, majority of it is going up. And so a lot of effort is going into that. So some district accountability notes. Our proficiency is up overall in math and ELA from last year, and we are actually higher than we were pre-pandemic. So when you look at our math and ELA proficiency since 18-19, we're higher than that currently, and we're higher than last year. We have the most A schools that we've ever had. We have 25 A schools. A lot. And so we have the most that we've ever had. To be honest with you, we had another school that was 24 away from, so we almost had 26. We do have 25 A schools. MD also releases at this time advanced placement testing information. And so I always find this interesting. And so sometimes I put this in here because I do think it tells the tale too, like where students start and where they end up, with advanced placement being a high school assessment. Our advanced placement passing percentage is 50% compared to the state's 35%. But also keep in mind that we gave 12.6% of all advanced placement tests that were given in the state. So that actually means we're even higher than the 15%. Because we factored into that state's percentage. So if you take us out, the state would be much below that. So very proud of that. That's college credit for students. So you talk about affecting students, that affects students directly. So with that, and also you'll see in our acceleration component, we are continuing to raise the level of students that leave us with high school credit. And that is very important to us and something that we strive to do and are very proud of. So here you will see the K-8 schools in order of total points. So what you're looking at, school name, obviously on the left, far right is the actual letter grade. And then the next to last column is the total points for these schools. And then on the 700 scale, what we call it, because there's you can technically get up to 700 points. And so those schools go in order of highest to lowest based on that scale. And I do believe Ms. Cross gave you guys a printed copy. And so if you have that, and you take that with you. So one thing that we also do here, this is not an official accountability statistic or category, but we emphasize student growth. Every student, our goal is every student meeting growth. So one thing we look at, we have 4 growth components in the accountability model. So one thing we do is we simply add those together and then rank it highest to lowest. You can call them the growth champion or whatever you want to call them, but it's just basically the growth rankings. And so that's what you're looking at right there for the 700 scale schools. And when we say 700 scale, it's K-8. High schools are not in that, but it's every other school. And so that goes highest to lowest for growth rates. All right, and now you're looking at the high school results. We call these the 1,000 scale because they can have up to 1,000 points. And so these are our 8 high schools in order of highest to lowest total points. Again, just like you saw on the 700 scale, the very left first column is the school name, the very right is the school grade, and as you see next to last, that is the total points. You see a lot of A's on that slide. And we do the same thing for the high school. They have the same 4 growth components. So we do the same thing, add those together in highest, lowest. And I like to do this too because you see a little bit of a different order from here to here. And so it kind of tells, that both things tell a story, but sometimes they tell, 2 different stories, that tell what a school is, doing on certain parts and growing students. So we like to emphasize that as well. So here what you'll see is our school notes, just things of note that I wanted to point out. So Horn Lake Intermediate gained 48 points and they're now a B. To be honest, a relatively high B. I'll call it a B plus. Shadow Oaks and Hope Sullivan gained 116 and 90 points respectively, and they're now both A's.
Right.
Horn Lake Elementary gained 89 points and is now a B, a B plus. Center Hill Elementary moved up to number 2 in the district among the grade 4-5 schools. They made quite a jump this year. Based on school names, file that we get from the State Department, you kind of have to go by school name as to what kind of grade configuration might be in that school. So we kind of play a little game with that and try to figure out how our middle schools did against other middle schools. So based on school names, Lewisburg Middle is the number 3 traditional middle school in the state, and Fernando Middle is 5. So a couple of proficiency things of note. Fernando Middle was number 8 in 7th grade ELA proficiency, number 2 in 8th grade math. Lewisburg Middle was number 3 in 8th grade science, number 7 in 6th grade ELA, number 9 in 8th grade ELA, number 8 in 7th grade math, and number 7 in 8th grade in the state. Lewisburg Intermediate was number 7 in 5th grade proficiency math in the state. Center Hill Middle was number 9 in 7th grade math and number 4 in 8th grade math proficiency in the state. And then Lewisburg Elementary was number 9 in overall math proficiency in the state. And a couple high school notes. Lewisburg High School surpassed the 50 points in acceleration. It's a 50-point component, but they actually got enough bonus where they're over it. And so they ranked number 3 in the state for high schools in that category. And again, that category comes from your amount of dual credit and advanced placement. Lewisburg High School is number 2 in college and career readiness, which that component comes from ACT and ACT work keys. Number 5 in math proficiency, and number 6 in science proficiency. Fernando High School is number 1 in science proficiency. That's actually 2 years in a row for them to be number 1 in science proficiency. Number 2 in math proficiency, and number 7 in acceleration. So those are things to point out. So conclusion, this is kind of giving you the summary and then also kind of where we lead up to in the current state. Growth was much harder this year compared to last year for the grade 3 through 8 schools. It's really due to circumstances that had nothing to do with student learning. MD talked about that today on the state board meeting as they presented these results. Just the effect of the last 3 years in districts in different situations has produced some just honestly kind of up and down and weird data points to be comparing growth against over the last couple of years. So we talked about during this exact presentation last year, how that would be the case, that growth was going to be a challenge for 3 through 8 schools. And it's simply because the baseline for growth went from being during the pandemic to after the pandemic. And so that's really what it had to do with. The second bullet there tells you that just to be honest and be upfront with you, the high school results you just looked at, there was some very advantageous situations that played a result in those results. It's that because they actually had the same exact situation that our 3 through 8 schools had last year, where they had growth being compared to the scores from in the pandemic, the 2021 year. And next year, they will face the situation that the 3 through 8 schools just faced, where growth is going to be compared to the year after the pandemic. The reason that there's a delay is, well, high school comes from the 8th grade assessment, and those kids count for 10th grade. So it's a 2-year. The third bullet there tells you proficiency increases at so many levels has put us higher than pre-pandemic levels for math and ELA. And we emphasize growth in this district, but we do need to say that proficiency, because we got so many up and down things I just talked about in bullets 1 and 2 with growth, proficiency is the one thing that is just has nothing to do with previous years. It's just proficiency for that year, so it's a data point that's apples to apples. So the fact that we're higher than our pre-pandemic levels, that has nothing to do with situations. That has to do with student learning. All right, and then the 5th bullet, so due to the different and changing circumstances for each district over the last 3 years, producing, just to be honest, few data at times, letter grade cuts are supposed to be reset for the school year that we're in right now. This would take the state and therefore the district way back as far as letter grades are concerned, even though the data that makes up those letter grades is continuing to be high. Watching the state board meeting today, it appears the MD would prefer to wait 1 year because of what I just described, that pandemic effect, let it settle out. And there's also a lot of consideration to change the accountability model this year. And so it seems like their preference is to wait 1 year. But if you just look at state law as of this moment, well, the cuts are supposed to be reset. But state legislature and state board would have to approve waiting for 1 year. But there's a lot of reasons to wait 1 year because of the things that we just talked about. And it does seem like ED is on board with that. We'll have to see where that ends up. So in summary, the district continues to be an A, even as things change. We're one of only 9 districts that were an A in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2022, and now 2023, which are all the years since MAP testing and our current accountability system began. So you can't do any better than that. It's kind of the understatement. So be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions?
Is there a deadline for them to make the decision about waiting the year?
That's a great question, because one of her points that she made today, the person who was presenting this to the state board, she said, well, we're 4th through the year. Do we want to change the rules and change the scoreboard? All they're really doing is changing the scoreboard. While the game has already been played, we're in the second quarter of the game. So we want to change the scoreboard. So it's a great point she made, which is why waiting a year makes sense, where everybody knows going into next year, this is the scoreboard. So to answer your question, no, but everybody is aware that that's a problem that needs to be considered.
Any other questions from Mr. Kirkendall? Thank you very much. It's great to see great results, to be able to serve and work with such a great district. Again, a personal pleasure. So, thank you.
Sir.
Moving on to our superintendent's report. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to sum up and say exactly what you said just a moment ago. It's an honor to be able to serve as superintendent and to have such a great team. I want to congratulate and thank our teachers, administrators, and staff on a job well done. I also want to thank our central services team. We've got a lot of them here today. We invited our academic specialists to be here because they're out working with all of our schools at every level, elementary, middle, and high. And I want to thank them for all that they do, because they're out there working every day. They don't get a lot of recognition, but we want to make sure to thank them publicly for how hard they work and all that they did, because they are a big part of these results. We want to thank our school board members. Want to thank y'all for your support, because there's a lot of times I come to y'all with requests of things that we need academically, and I know y'all are always willing to help. And it's just that everyone's overcome so many obstacles over these last 3 years, and to be able to see how well our students are achieving and such a great job that our schools are doing. Mr. Kirkendall was talking about the percentage of students in AP, and I wrote this down, is that we've got almost 8% of all public school students in Mississippi go to DeSoto County schools. And so the responsibility that we have is enormous, but also the task that we have is enormous, because just like the team that we have here today, it takes so many people from the district level. It takes so many teachers, administrators, and our parents and the community behind us, and it's what makes DeSoto County successful. And I just want to once again thank everyone who is involved in this, and just know, like Mr. Kirkendall said, we're already a quarter of the way into this year. So we're talking about last year right now, but we're already working on the year that we're in. So I just want to thank everyone who's involved. Thank you.
That concludes our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing
Before
none.
we adjourn,
Oh,
let's give these ladies and gentlemen a hand, so a hand, a round of applause.
thank you. With that, we are adjourned until Thursday, October 5th at 3 p.m. Thank y'all.
Great job, everybody. Thank y'all.
Great job.